Book 2 of Troilus and Criseyde by Geoffrey Chaucer. Recording by Kevin Johnson. Book 2. Incipit Prohemium Secundi Libri. Out of these black wawas forticilla, O wind, the wider gineth clear, for in this say the boot hath sweet travail of me koning, that uneth I et stere. This say claype I the tempestuous mater of despair that Troilus was in, but now of hope the calendes beginne. O lady min that called art Cleo, thou be my spade fro this forth, and me muse, to ream well this book, till I have do, may needed hair known other art to use, for we to every lover I may excuse, that of no sentiment I descendite, but out of Latin in me tongue it rite. Wherefore I nil have neither thank nor blame of all this work, but pray ya make allay, disblameth me if any word be lame, for as mine actor saide, so say I. Eke though I spake of love unfailingly, no wonder is, for it no thing of newe is, a blind man cannot looken well in hues. Ye know eke, that in form of speech is change within 1,000 year, and word as though that hadden priest, now wonder niece and strange, who's thinketh him, and yet they spak him so, and spade as well in love as men now do, eke for to win a love in sundry ages, in sundry landes, sundry ben usages. And for thee, if it happen any wise, that here be any lover in this plaza, that hearkeneth, as the story well devise, how Troilus come to his laddie grassa, and thinketh so nol thee not love purchasa, or wondereth on his speech or his doing. I noot, but it is me, no wondering. For every week which that to Roma went, halt not o path, or alwi o manera, eke in some land where all the gammon shant, if that they fared in love as men don't hear, as thus in open doing or in chera, in visiting, in form, or said here sawas, for thee men saying, each country hath his laws. Ik scarcely been there in this place three, than han in love said leak and done in all, for to the purpose this may leaken thee, and thee reek not, yet all is said or shall, eke some men grave in tray, some in stone wall, as it be teat, but sin he have begone, me actor shall he followen, if he can. Incipit Prohemium Secundi Libri. Incipit Liber Secundus. In May that mother is of montes glada, that fresh of flowers, blue and wheat and rada, been quick again, that winter day demada, and full of balm is flating every mada. When Phoebus doth his breek de bemis sprede, reeked in the wheat bola, it so betide, as he shall singa, on May's day that ridde. That Pandarus for all his wise speche, felt eke his part of love is short as cane, that, could he never so well of loving preche, it made his hue a day full oft a graine, so shope it, that him fill, that day attain, in love, for which in woe to bede he wente, and mada, ere it was day, for many a wente. The swa wa progne, with a sorrowful lie, when more wa come, gan mak her way menting, we she for shoppen was, and ever lay, Pandara abede, half in a slumbering, till she so neg him mad her cheatering, Harterius gan forth her suster taka, that with the noise of here he gan a waka, and gone to call and dress him up to Risa, remembering him his errand was to Dona, from Troilus, and eke his great emprise, and casta and canoe in good pleat was the mona, to dun biage, and took his way full sona, on to his niece's palace there beside. Now Ianus, god of entree, thou him guida. When he was come unto his niece's plaza, where is my lady? To her folk said he, and they him told her, and he forth and gone passa, and found 'twa other ladies sate and she, with una paved parlour, and they three herden a maiden raiden him the gaste of the sage of Thebes, Wilhelm Leicester. Quod Pandarus, Madama, God jou say, with all your book and all the company. Uncle mine, welcome you is, quod she. And up she rose, and be the horned in he, she took him fast, and said, This nicht to three, to good a mote eterna, of Yowie meta, and with that word she down on bench him setta. Ye nesa, ye shall fare well, they bet, if God will, all this year, quod Pandarus. But I am sorry that ye have yow let to hearkenen, of your book ye praise and those. For God is love, what saith it? Tell it us. Is it of love? O, some good ye may lere. Uncle, quod she, your mistress is not here. Without they gone in larka, and though she said, This romance is of Thebes that we read, and we han heard how that King Laius died, through Oedipus his son, and all that died. And here we stenten at these letters read, how the bishop, as the book can tell, Amphiorax, fell through the ground to hell. Quod Pandarus, all this knowy meselva, and all the assage of Thebes and the Cara, for her have been their marked book is 12, but lot be these, and tell me how ye fara. Do weigh your barba, and show your face bara. Do weigh your book, rise up, and let us dance, and let us do to me some observance. Aye, God forbade, quod she, be ye mad? Is that a widower's leaf? So God ye sarve. Be God, ye making me rich sore drad. Ye been so wield, it seemeth as ye rava. It sitteth me well bet in a cava, to bede, and raid on holy saintes leaves. Let maidens goon to dance, and younger weavers. As ever three be quod this Pandarus, yet could he tell a thing to doon your play. Now uncle dare, quod she, tell it us, for God is love. Is than the assage away? Ye am of Greek so fair that he day. Nay, quod he, as ever a moti thriva. It is a thing well bet, than switch a fever. Yea, holy God, quod she, what thing is that? What? Bet than switch a fever? Nay, wis, for all this world may canny raiden what it should have been. Some yepi, I trow, is this? And but yourself and tell us what it is. Me wit is for to arrayde it all to Lena. As help me God, I noot not what ye mean. And ye a borrow ne never shall for me. This thing be told to yow as moti thriva. And we so, uncle mean, we so, quod she. By God, quod he, that will ye tell as believe. For prouder woman were there noon on leva, and yet it weeste in all the town of Troy. Ye knocked, as ever have ye joy. Though gan she wanderen more than beforn, 1,000-fold, and doen her e'en casta, for never sith the time that she was born, to no thing desired she so fasta, and with a seek she said him at the lasta. Now uncle mean, he nil yow knock displays, nor axen more, that may do yow disease. So after this with many wordes glada, and friendly talas, and with merry cheera, of this and that they played, and gun in wada, in many an uncouth glad, and deep matera, as friendes doen, when they been mate ye fairda, till she gan axen him how Ector fairda, that was the town as wall, and Greek as yerda. Full well he thanked God, quod Pandarus, save in his arme he hath a little wounda, and eke his fresh brother Troilus, the wise worthy Ector the second, in whom that ever virtue list abounda, as all a troth and all a gentilesse, wisdom, honour, freedom, and worthiness. In good faith, quod she, that leaketh me, they faren well, God save him both the twa, for truly hold it great dainty. A king's son in armes well to do, and being of good conditions thereto, for great power and moral virtue here, is selde ye say, in a person ye faire. In good faith that is sooth, quod Pandarus, but Be my troth, the king hath sonnes tway, that is to main Ector and Troilus, that certainly, though that he shoulde day, they been as void of vices, dare I say, as any men that liveth under the sunne. Here meekt as weede ye know, and what they canna. Of Ector needeth it not for to tella. In all this world there nis a better knecht than he, that is of worthiness wella, and he well more virtue hath than meekte. This knoweth many a wise and worthy weekte. The same priest of Troilus he say, God help me so, I know not switch it way. Be God, quod she, of Ector that is sooth, of Troilus the same thing trow we? For dread Elise, men tell him that he doeth in armes day by day so worthily, and beareth him here at home so gently, to every week, that all the praise hath he of him that may, where lavest praised be. Ye say right sooth ye wis, quod Pandarus, for yesterday whoso hadde with him been, he might have wondered upon Troilus. For never yet so thick a swarm of bane, ne flech, as Greeks fro him gone flain, and thurg the feld in every wictes era, there nas no cree but Troilus is there. Now here, now there, he hunted him so fasta, there nas but Greekes blood, and Troilus. Now him he hurta, and him all down he casta. Aye, where he went, it was arrayed thus. He was her death, and shield and leaf for us. That as that day there durst none withstanda, will that he hauled his bloody sword in handa. Thereto he is the friendliest man of great estate that ever he saw me leave, and where him least best fellowship can, to such as him thinketh able for to thrive. And with that word, though Pandarus as believe, he took his leave, and said, I will go henne. Nay, blame have ye, min uncle? Quod she then, what aileth yow to be thus very sone, and name a lich of woman, will ye so? Nay, sit it down by God, ye have to don with yow, to speak of wisdom ere ye go. And every week that was about him though, that heard that gan for a fate astonda, will they two hadde all that him least in handa. When that her tale all broked was to an anda, of her estate and of her governance, quod Pandarus, now is it time I wende, but yet I say, ariseth, let us dance, and cast your widow's habit to mischance. What list yow thus yourself to disfigure, sith yow is tid thus fair an aventure? Ah, well bethought, for love of God, quod she, shall ye not weten what ye mean of these? No, this thing axeth laser, though quod he, and ik me wolde much grave I wis, if ye it tolde, and ye it took amiss. Yet were it bit me tongue for to stille, then say a sooth that were against your wille. For Nasa by the goddess Minerva, and Jupiter that maketh the yonder ringe, and be the blissful Venus that he serve, ye been the woman in this world a living, without a paramours, to me witting, that ye best love, and loathest am to grave, and that ye weten well, yourself, ye leve. Ye wis, min uncle, quod she, grant mercy, your friendship have ye found in ever yet. Ye am to no man holden truly, so much as yow, and have so little quit. And with the grace of God, am forth me wit, as in me guilt ye shall you never offend, and if ye have ere this, ye will amend. But for the love of God ye yow be sage, as ye been he that ye love most and traste. Let be to me your fremde maner speche, and say to me your nese what yow leeste. And with that word her uncle anon her kiste, and said, gladly, leve nae stare, tak it for good that ye shall say yow here. With that she gan her eyen down to cast, and Pandarus to koch gan a lite, and said, nace all we low, to the laste. How so it be that some men him delete, with subtle art her tales for to indeed. Yet for all that, in her intention, her tale is all for some conclusion. and seethen then is every tala's strength, and this matter is so behoverly. What shall thee paint or drawen it on length, to jou, that been my friend so faithfully? And with that word he gan reeked inwardly beholden her, and loken on her face, and saide, on such a mirror goede grace. Then thought he thus, if he me tala indeed, octa hard, or make a process any wheela, she shall no saver han therein, but lite, and throw I wulde her in me will begiela, for tendre wit is wennen all be wheela, thereas they cannot plainly understand, for thee her wit to serve wolle fonde. And looked on her in a busy wise, and she was war that he beheld her so, and said, Lord, so fast ye me avise, say ye me never now? What say ye, no? Yes, yes, quod he, and bet will ere go, but be me troth, I thought now if ye be fortunate, for now men shall it say. For to every week some goodly aventure, some time shapa, if he it can receiven, and if that he will talk of it no cure, when that it cometh, but wilfully it waven, lo, neither cast nor fortune him desaven, but wreaked his very slouth and wretchedness, and sweet a weekt is for to bla me guess. Good aventure, o bella nesa, have ye for leekly founden, and ye con it take, and for the love of God, and eke of me, cash it anon, lest aventure slake. What shall the linger process of it make? Give me your hand, for in this world is none, if that your least, a week so well begun. And sith he spake of good intention, as I to jou have told well herebefore, and love as well your honour and renown as creature in all this world ye born, be all the oaths that ye have jou sworn, and ye be wroth therefore, or when I lee, ne shall ye never seen jou eft with ye. Beth not aghast, ne quaketh not whereto, ne changeth not for fair so your hue, for heartily the worst of this is due, and though me tal as now be to jou know, yet trist alway ye shall me fiende through, and were it thing that me thought unsitting, to jou nold I knows which talas bring. Now, my good Eam, for God's love I pray, quod she, come of and tell me what it is, for both I am aghast what ye will say, and eke me longeth it to weet I wis. For whether it be well or be amiss, say on, let me not in this farra dwell, so will I don now hearkeneth, I shall talla. Now nesa mean, the king is dere son, the goede, wise, worthy, fresh and frey, which all we for to do well is his wona, the noble Troilus, so loveth they, that both ye help, it will his bana be. Lo, here is all, what shall thee more say, doth what you least, to mak him leave or day. But if ye let him day, he will starve. Have here me trouthness, I will not lean, all shall ye with this knife my throat to carve. With that the terrors brast out of his yen, and saide, if that ye doen us both again, thus guiltless, then have ye fished fair. What mende ye, though that we both appear? Alas, he which that is me lord so dare, that through a man, that noble gentle knecht, that naught desireth but your friendly chere, ye see him day, there he goeth upreeked, and hasteth him, with all his full meekte, for to be slain, if fortune will assent. Alas, that God youse which a beauty sent. If it be so that ye so cruel be, that of his death yow least not to rage, that is so true and worthy as ye say, no more than of a yeber or a rage, if ye be switch, your beauty may not stretch, to make amendes of so cruel a deed. Avisement is good before the need. Woe worth the fair gem virtulis, Woe worth that herb also that doth no bote. Woe worth that beote that is routelis. Woe worth that wheat that tret etch under fote. And ye that been a beote crop and rota, if therewithal, and yo there be no rotha, then is it harm ye liven, by my troth. And also think well that this is no gowd, for me were lever, though and and he were hanged, then he should been his bowd, as haig as men meekt on us all ye see. Iem din the sham were to me, as well as thee, if that he should assent, surg me na bet, that be din honor shente. No understand, for jou not require, to bind jou to him surge no beheste, but only that ye mek him betre chere, than ye han done this and more feste, so that his lief be saved at the leiste. This all in sum and plainly orentante, God help me so, he never other mente. Lo, this request is not but skila I wiz, ne doubt of reason pardie is there none. I sette the worst that ye dreaden this, men wolden wandren seen him come or gone. There a jens answer either so known, that every week but he be full of kinde, will deem it love of friendship in his minde. What? Who will deem, though he see a man to temple go, that he the images eteth? Think eke how well and wisely that he can govern himself, that he no thing forgeteth, that, where he cometh, he pris and thank him gateth, and eke thereto he shall come here so selde, what force were it though all the town behelde? Switch love of friendes regneth all this town, and jou in that mantle evermo, and God so wise be me salvation, as ye have said, your beste is to do so, but alway good and ace to stint his woe. So let your danger sucreed be no lite, that of his death ye be knocked for to wete. Criseyde, which that heard him in this wise, thoughte, ye shall fail what he meaneth ye wis. Now quod ye, what will ye devise? What is your rede ye shall done of this? That is well said, quod he, certain best is, that ye him love again for his loving, as love for love is skilful guerdonining. Think eke how elde wasteth every hour, in each of jou a party of beauty, and therefore, ere that age thee devour, go love, for old there will no week of thee. Let this proverb allure unto jou be, to lat ye war quod beauty when it paste, and elde daunteth danger at the laste. The king is fool is wonted to crien loud, when that him thinketh a woman beareth her he. So long mote ye live, and all proude, till crow's feet be grow under yer ee. And sende jou dan a mirror into pre, in which that ye may see your face a morwa, nesa, ye bid a wish ya, no more sorwa. With this he stente, and casta down the heed, and she began to brace to weep anon, and saide, Alas for woe! We ne'er indeed, for of this world the faith is all agone. Alas, what shoulden strange to me done, when he that for my best friend ye wende, bret me to love, and shouldet me defende. Alas, he wold han trusted doutelays, that if that through me disadventure, had loved other him or Achilles, Hector, or any man's creature, ye know the han had no mercy ne measure on me, but alway had me in repreve. This false world, alas, who may it lave? What? Is this all the joy and all the feaste? Is this your raid? Is this my blissful cause? Is this the very maid of your beheste? Is all this painted process said, alas? Reet for this fin, or lady mean palace. Thou in this dreadful cause for me purvey, was so astonied at me that he day. With that she gan full sorrowfully to seek. Ah, may it be no bait, quod Pandarus, be God, ye shall no more come here this week, and God to fawn, that am mistrusted thus, ye see full well that ye set a leet of us, or of our death, alas, ye woeful wretche, meet to hae yet leave, of me is naught to reche. O cruel God, O dispitau smart, O furies three of helle, on jou I crie, so let me never out of this house depart, if that he meant harm or villainy, but sith he say, my Lord, mote nedes die, and I with him, hear I me shrieve, and say, that wickedly you doen us both the day. But sith it leaketh jou that I be deed, by Neptunus, that God is of the say, for this forth shall I never eten braid, till I mine own hearte blood may say, for certain I will die as soon as he, and up he starte, and on his way he rockte, till she again him by the lappe caught. Criseyde, which that well nae starf for fair, so as she was the fearfullest wight that meek to be, and heard eke with her eare, and saw the sorrowful earnest of the kneekte, and in his prayer eke saw noon unreekte, and for the harm that meeked eke fallen more, she gan to rue and dreade her wonder sore, and thoughte thus, unhap is fallen thieke all day for love, and in swich manner cas, as men being cruel in himself and weake, and if this man slee here himself, alas, in me presence it will be no solace. What men wold of it dame I cannot say, it needeth me full slayly for to play. And with a sorrowful seek she said a three, Ah Lord, what me is tid a sorry chance, for mine start leith in Juparty, and eke mine aim is leith in balance, but nae the least, with God's governance, he shall so doen mine honour shall I keep, and eke his leaf, and stint for to weep. Of harm is twoe, the less is for to chase, yet have I liever maken him good cheer in honour, than mine aim is leaf to lase. Ye saying, ye nothing else may require? No wis, quod he, mine owen nae sedere. Now well, quod she, and he will doen me pain, he shall mine heart against me lust constrain. But that he nill not holden him in honde, ne love a man, ne can he not, ne may against me will, but elles will he fonde, mine honour soft, place him fro day to day, there to nolde I knocked, one as have said nay, but that he dreade, as in me fantasy, but says a cause, sayseth melody. And here he make a protestation, that in this process if ye daper go, that certainly for no salvation of jou, though that ye starve both a twoe, though all the world on o day be my foe, ne shall he never on him han other wroth. I grant well, quod Pandarus, by my troth. But may ye trust well thereto, quod he, that of this thing that ye han heeked me here, ye will it holden truly unto me? Ye doubt a least, quod she, mine uncle dere. Nay, that he shall han cause in this matter, quod he, to plain, or after jou to preach, why no, pardie, what needeth more speech? Though fillen they in other tales glada, till at the laste. O good eam, quod she though, for love of God, which that us both amada, tell me how first ye wisten of his woe, what noon of it but ye? He said, No. Can he well speak of love, quod she? I pray, tell me, for I they bet me shall purvey. Though Pandarus a little gan to smile, and said, Be me troth ye shall jou tella, this other day not gone for long a wheela, in with the palace garden be a wheela, gone he and I well half a day to dwella, reeked for to spaken of an ordinance, how we the Greekes meeked at disavance. Soon after that be gone way to Deiphebus, and casten with our dartes to and fro, till at the last he said he wold sleep, and on the grace down he laid him though. And he after gone roam to and fro, till that he heard as that he welk alone, how he began full woefully to groan. Though gan he stalk him softly behind, and secretly, the south for to sayn, as he can clape again, now to me minde, reeked thus to love he gan him for to plain. He said, Lord, have wrought up on me pain. All have I been rebel in mine intenta. Now, mea culpa, Lord, I me repenta. O God, that at the disposition laidest the fin by loosed purveyance of every weak me low confession, accept in gree, and send me switch penance as leaketh thee, but from desesperance, that me gust departa away fro thee, though be my shield for the benignity. For certes, Lord, so sore hath she me wounded, that stood in black with looking of her yen, that to mine hearte's bottom it is ye sounded, the rug which ye wote that ye mote nedes dien. This is the worst, ye dare me not be wreen, and well the hotter being the glades rede, that men him reen with ashen pala and data. With that he smote his heed adoon anon, and gan to motra, ye note what, truly, and he with that gan steal away to gon, and let thereof as nothing wist had he, and come again anon and stood him be, and saida, Awaka, ye sleepen all too longa, it seemeth not that love doth yow longa, that sleepen so that no man may yow waka, who say ever or this so dull a man. Yea, friend, quod he, do ye your head as ache, for love, and let me liven as he can. But though that he for woe was pale and wan, yet mad he though as fresh a countenance as though he should have led the new a dance. This passed forth till now, this other day. It fell that he come roaming all alone into his chambre, and found how that he lay upon his bed, but man so sore groane, ne heard he never, and what that was his mona, ne wist he not, for as he was coming, all suddenly he left his complaining. Of which he took somewhat suspicion, and ne'er he come, and found he wept a sore, and God so wis be me salvation, as never a thing had he no wrath more, for neither with engine, ne with no lore, unnethes mighty fro the death him kepe, that yet faile in mine heart for him a wepe. And God wot never sith that he was born, was he so busy no man for to preach, ne never was to weak so deep he sworn, or he me told who meek to been his lature, but now to yow rehearsen all his speech, or all his woeful words is for to sound, ne bid me not, but ye will see me swown. But for to salve his leaf, and Ellis knocked, and to none harm of yow thus imi driven, and for the love of God that us hath rocked, which cheer him doth, that he and he may leven. Now have ye plot to yow mine heart shriven, and sin ye wote that mine intent is clean, take heed thereof, for ye none evil mean. And recht good thrift ye pray to God have ye, that hands which own ye caught without a net, and be ye wise, as he been fair to say, well in the ring then is the ruby set. There were never two so well ye met, when ye been his all whole, as he is your. There mighty God yet grant us see that hour. Nay, thereof spake ye not, aha, quod she, as help me God, ye shend in every deal. O mercy, Derenice, anon quod he. Whatso he spake, he meant naught but weal. By Mars, the God, that helmet is of steel. Now Beth knocked Ruth, me blood me niece adera. Now well, quod she, for Yevon be it here. With this he took his leave, and home he went, and Lord, he was glad and well begun. Criseyde ruse no longer she ne stente, but stroked into her closet went anon, and set her down as still as any stone, and every word gan up and down to winde, that he had saide, as it come her to minde. And wax Amdella stonied in her thought, reeked for the newe cause, but when that she was full of eased, though found she reeked naught of peril, why she ought a feared be for a man may love of possibility, a woman so his heart a may to breaste, and she knocked love again, but if her leaste. But as she sat alone and thought thus, the scry arose at skirmish all without, and men cried in the street, See, Troilus hath reeked now put to fleet the Greek's rout, With that gan all her manie for to shoute, Ah, go we see, cast up the lattice weede, for thurug the street he mote to palace ride. For other ways fro the yet noon of Dardanus, there open is the chain. With that come he and all his folk anon, and easy pass reading, in Rutus twain. Reeked as his happy day was, sooth to saying, for which men say may not disturbed be, that shall be teeden of necessity. This Troilus sat on his bay stayed, while armed save his heed for richely, and wounded was his horse, and gan to blade, on which he rode a pass, full softly, but switch a kneekly seekte truly, as was on him, was knocked withouten faile, to look on Mars, that God is of bataille. So like a man of armes and a kneekt, he was to seen, fulfilled of haig prowess, for both he had a body and a meekt, to doen that thing, as well as hardinesse, and eke to seen him in his gear him dresse, so fresh, so young, so well thee seemed he, it was in heaven up on him for to say. His helm to hewen was in 20 places, that by a tissue hang his back behinde. His shell to dash it was with swordes and masses, in which men meekte many an arwe fiende, that thurled had a horn and nerven riende. And the people cried, Here cometh our joy, and next his brother hold there up of Troy. For which he waxed a little reed for shame, when he the people upon him heard a crien, that to behold it was a noble game. How sober leech he cast down his yen, Criseyde gan all his chair espien, and liet so soft it in her heart to sinke, that to herself she saide, Who jaf me drinke. For of her own thought she wex all reed, remembering he reeked thus, Lo, this is he which that mine uncle sweareth he mote be deed, but I on him have mercy and pity. And with that thought, for pure shamed she, gan in her heed to pole, and that is fast, while he and all the people forby passed, and gone to cast and rolling up and down, within her thought his excellent prowesse, and his estate, and also his renown, his wit, his sharp, and eke his gentilesse. But most her favour was, for his distresse was all for her, and thought it was a routh, to sleen switch one, if that he meant a trouth. Now meek to some envious jangle thus, this was a certain love, how meek it be that she so leekly loved Troilus, reeked for the first to seekte, yea pardie. Now whoso saith so, mote he never thee, for everything a ginning hath it nede, ere all be rocked, withouten any dreade. For I say not that she so certainly gave him her love, but that she gone in clean to leek him first, and he have told ya we, and after that his manhood and his pain made love within her for to mean, for which by process and by good service he got her love, and in no certain wise. And also blissful Venus, well arrayed, sat in her 7th house of heaven though, disposed well, and with aspect is paid, to help in silly Troilus of his woe. And sooth to saying, she nas not all a foe to Troilus in his nativity. God woot that well the sooner spade he. Now let us stint of Troilus at Troa, that readeth forth, and let us turn fast unto Criseyde, that hang her head for low. Thereas she sat alone and gan to cast, whereon she wold appoint her at the last. If it so were, her aim ne wolde cease, for Troilus upon her for to presse. And Lord, so she gan in her thought argue in this matter of which she have you told, and what to doen best were, and what issue, that pleaded she full often manyfold. Now was her heart a warm, now was it cold, and what she thought somewhat shall ye read, as to mine actor listeth for to indeed. She thought well that Troilus persona she knew by seekte, and eke his gentilesse, and thus she said, were it not to doen, to grant him love, yet for his worthinesse, It were honour, with play and with gladness, in honest day, with switch a lord to dela, for Mina start and also for his hela. Eke well wot ye me kinge's son is he, and sith he hath to see me switch delete, if he will utterly his seek to flay, parantur he might have me in dispute, through which he might stand in worsplit. Now where he wis, me hat to purchase, without nada there he may stand in grass. In everything ye would there lieth measure, for though a command forbade drunkenness, he not forbade that ever creature we drink a lease for alway, as he guess. Eke sith he would for me is his distress, he ne ought not for that thing him despise. Sith it is so, he meaneth in good weesa. And eke he know of long time agone, his thu is good, and that he is not Nisa. Ne aventure, saith men, certain he is known. Too wise is he to do so great a visa, ne alls they knell him never so cherise, that he may mak avant, be loose to cause. He shall me never bind in switch a clause. Now set a cast the hardest is, ye wis, men meet in dame that he loveth me. What dishonour were it unto me, this? May him let of that? Why nay, pardee. Eke know also, and all they hear and see, men love and woman all this town about. Be they the worse? Why nay, without doubt. Ye think eke how he able is for to have of all this noble town the thriftiest, to beam his love, so she her honour sava, for out and out he is the worthiest, save only Hector, which that is the best. And yet his leaf all leath now in me cura, but switch is love, and eke mean aventure. Nay, me to love a wonder is it knocked, for well wot ye myself, so God may spade, or would ye that none wist of this thought? Ye am the fairest out of Dreda, and goodliest whoso taketh Heda, and so men saying in all the town of Troy, what wonder is it thou he of me have joy? Ye am mine own woman, well at ease, ye thank it God, as after mine start, reeked young, and stand on tade and lusty lace, withouten jealousy or switch debat, shall none husbanda saying to me, checkmat. For either they been full of jealousy, or masterful, or love and novelry. What shall ye doen, to what fin live ye thus? Shall ye not loven, in case if that me leste? What pardo, ye am not religious. And though that ye mine heart set at rest, upon this knecht, that is the worthiest, and keep alway mine honour and mine nama, ye all a reekte, it may do me no shama. But reeked as one the sun sheeneth reekte, in March, that changeth oft team his fasa, and that a cloud is put with wind to fleekte, which oversprout the sun as for a spasa, a cloudy thought can through her soul passa, that oversprout her breekte thought is all, so that for fair almost she gone to fall. That thought was this, alas, sin I am free, should I now love and put in jeopardy me secreness, and thrall in liberty? Alas, how durst I thinken that folly? May I not well in other focus be her dreadful joy, her constraint and her pain? There loveth none, that she nath why to plain. For love is yet the most stormy leaf, reeked of himself that ever was begun, for ever some mistrust or nie strief. There is in love some cloud is over that sun, there too we wretched woman nothing conne, when us is woe, but wape and sit and thinke, how rich is this, our own woe to drinke. Also these wicked tongues being so pressed, to speak us harm, eke men be so untrue, that reeked anon as cessed is her list, so ceaseth love, and forth to love anew, but harm ye done is done, whoso it throw. But though these men for love him first to render, full sharp beginning breaketh oft at end. How oft a team hath it ye known be, the treason that to woman hath bedow, to what fiends which love ye cannot say, or where becometh it when it is ago. There is no week that woot ye trow so, where it becometh, lo, no week on it sparneth, that erst was no thing, into naught it turneth. How busy if ye love eke most ye be, to pleasen him that ye angle of love, and damon, and coy him, that they say none harm of me, for though there be no cause, yet him samen all be, for harm that folk her friend is quamen. And who may stop in every wicked tongue, or sound of bellies, well that they be wrong. And after that her thought began to clear, and said, He which that no thing undertaketh, no thing ne achieveth, be him loath or dare. And with an other thought her heart quaketh, then sleepeth hope, and after dread awaketh. Now hoot, now cold, but thus betwixt and tway, she reached her up, and went her for to play. Adown the stair anon reeked though she went into the garden, with her naces three, and up and down there made many a went, Flexippe, Shea, Tharbe, and Antigone, to play in, that it joy was to see, and other of her woman a great rout, her followed in the garden all about. This yard was large, and railed all the ales, and shadowed well with blossomy boughs green, and benched new, and sounded all the ways, in which she walketh arm in arm between, till at the last Antigone the Shana gan on a Troyan song to sing a clara, that it and even was her voice to hear. She said, O love, to whom ye have and shall be in humble subject, true in mean entente, as ye best can to yow Lord, ye which all, for evermore, in heart is loose to renta. For never yet thee grace no week to Santa, so blissful cause as me lief to laid in all joy and surety, out of dread. Ye blissful God, and may so well be set in love, ye wis, that all that beareth leave, imaginin ne cowed how to ben bet. For Lord, withouten jealousy or strife, ye love one which that is most attentive, to serven well, unweary or unfeigned, that ever was, and least with harm distrained. As he that is the well of worthiness, of troth aground, mirror of goodly head, of wit Apollo, stone of seekerness, of virtue rota, of lust finder and heed, through which is all sorrow from me deed. Ye wis ye love him best, so doth he may, now good thrift have he, whereso that he be. Whom shoulde ye thanke but yow, God of love, of all this bliss, in which to bathe ye gin, and thanked be ye, Lord, for that ye love. This is the wreaked lief that ye am in, to flame in all manner vice and sin. This doth me so to virtue for to intend, that day by day e'en me will amend. And whoso saith that for to love is vice, or thraldom, though he feel in it distress, he either is envious or wreaked niece, or is unmeekty for his shrewdness, to loven, for which manner folk he guess, defamen love as nothing of him knowe. They spaken, but they bent never his bow. What is the son awares of kinder riekte, though that a man for faiblesse of his yen may not endure on it to see fabriekte, or love the wares, though wretches on it creen, no wail is worth, that may no sorrow dreen. And for thee, who that hath an heed of vera, fro cast of stones wore him in the ware. But ye with all mine heart and all me meekte, as ye have said were love, and to me laste, me deare heart and all mine owen kniekte, in which mine heart growen is so faste, and his in me, that it shall ever laste, all dready first to love him to begin, now woot ye well there is no peril in. And of her song reeked with that word she stente, and therewith all. Now nace, quod Criseyde, who made this song with so good intente? Antigone answered anon and said, Madame, ye wis the goodliest maida of greatest stat in all the town of Troy, and let her live in most honour and joy. Forsooth, so it seemeth by her song, quoth Criseyde, and gan therewith to seeke, and saide, Lord, is there switch bliss among these lovers, as they con fair indeed? Yea wis, quod fresh Antigone the wite, for all the folk that han or been on leave, ne conne well the bliss of love descrive. But when ye that every wretche wote the perfect bliss of love, why, nay, ye wis, they wennen all be love, if un be hoot, the way, they woot no thing of this. Men mosten axe at saintes if it is aught fair in heaven. Why? For they canna tell, and axen fiendes, is it foul and hell? Criseyde unto that purpose not answered, but said, Ye wis it will be neeked as faste. But every word which that she of her hearde, she gan to prenten in her hearte faste, and I gan love her lass for to Augusta, than it did erst, and sinken in her hearte, that she wax somewhat abla to converte. The day is honour, and the heaven is yea, the neeked is foe, all this clape the sona, gan western faste, and downward for to ree, as he that hadde his day's course he run, and wete thing is wexen dim and dawn, for lack of licht, and sterres for to appear, that she and all her folk in went ye fair. So one it leaked her to goon to rest, and voiden weren they that voiden ocht. She said that to sleep well her leaste, her woman soon till her bed her brochte. When all was hoosed, then lay she still and thochte of all this thing, the manner and the wise. Rehearse it needeth not, for ye bin wise. A nicht in gala upon a cedra grene, under a chamber wall there as she lay, full loud sang again the mone shene. Parentur in his bride's wise, a lay of love, that made her heart fresh and gay, that hearkened she so long in good entente, till at the last the day to sleep her hente. And as she sleep, anon reeked though her mate, how that an eagle feathered wheate's bone, under her breast his long clawed sette, and out her hearte he rente, and that anon, and did his heart into her breast to gon, of which she knocked a grues, ne nothing smatte, and forth he fleg, with heart left for hearte. Now lat her sleep, and we are Talis hold of Troilus, that is to Palace reading, fro the scaramouch, of the which he told her, and in his chambre sit, and hath abiden, till 2 or 3 of his messages yaden, for Pandarus, and soughten him full faste, till they him found, and brought him at the laste. This Pandarus come laping in at once, and saide thus, Who hath been well ye bet to-day with swordes, and with slingestones, but Troilus that hath cocked him and hate, and gan to yape and saide, Lord, so ye swate, but rise and let us soup and go to reste. And he answered him, Do we as thee laste. With all the hast goodly that they maked, they spedde him fro the super unto bedde, and every week out at the door him deeked, and where him least upon his way him spade. But Troilus that thought his heart a blade, for woe, till that he heard some teeding, he said, Friend, shall I now weep or sing? Quod Pandarus, Lie still and let me sleep, and doen thine hold, thy native's spade obey, and chase if thou wilt sing or dance or lape. At shorte wordes thou shalt trowe me. Sire, my nase will do well by thee, and love thee best, by God and by my troth, but lack a pursuit make it in thy slouth. For thus fare forth ye have the work begun, fro day to day, till this day, by the morwa. Her love of friendship have ye to thee won, and also hath she laid her faith to Borwa. All gate of foot is hammerlaid of thy sorwa. What shall thee linger sermon of it holde? As ye han heard before, all hae him tolde. But reeked as flowers, thurg the cold of nicht closed, stoopen on her stalk low, redressen hem again the sonne breekte, and spraden on her kiende course by row. Reek so gan though his e'en up to throw this Troilus and Criseyde, O Venus dere, thy meekt, thy grass, he herried be it here. And to Pandarus he held up both his handes and saide, Lord, all thine be that I have, for I am whole, all brosten been me bondes, 1,000 Trojans, whoso that me yeve, each after other, God so wies me save, ne meekt me so gladen, lo min harte, it spreadeth so for joy, it will to starte. But Lord, how shall I doen? How shall I liven? When shall I next me dare harte see? How shall this long time away be driven, till that thou be again at here fro me? Thou mayest answere, Abide, abide, but he that hangeth by the necke, sooth to sayn, in great disease, abideth for the pain. All easily now for the love of Martha, quod Pandarus, for everything hath time, so long abide till that the nicht depart. For all so seeker as thou least here be me, and God to forn, he will be there at prima, and for thy work somewhat as he shall say, or on some other week this charge lay. For pardie, God wot, ye have ever yet been ready they to serve, and to this nicht have ye not feigned, but am forth me wit done all thy lust, and shall with all me meekte. Do now as he shall say, and fairer reeked, and if thou nilt, weet all thyself thy cara, on me is knocked along thine evil fara. I woot well that thou wiser art than I 1,000-fold, but if I were as thou, God help me so, as I would outwardly, reeked of mine own hand, write to her right now a letter, in which I would her tellen how I fared amiss, and here beseech of routh, now help thyself, and leave it not for slouth. And I myself shall therewith to her goon, and when thou wost that I am with her there, worth thou up on a course reeked anon, yea, heartily reeked in thy best gear, and rid forth by the place, as knocked ne were, and thou shalt find us, if ye may, sitting at some window, into the straight looking. And if thee list, then mayst thou us salue, and upon me make thy countenance, but by thy leaf beware and fast eschew, to tarry and oct, God shield us from mischance. Read forth thy way, and hold thy governance, and we shall spake of thee somewhat, I trow, when thou art gone, to do thine errors glow. Touching thy lettre, thou art wheezy knocked, I wot, I would thou nilt it digna leech and deet, as make it with these argumentes tauch. No scrivenish or craftily thou art brita, be bloated with thy terrors ekalita, and if thou read a goodly word all softe, though it be good, rehearse it not too ofte. For though the best harpur upon leva, would on the best sounded eoli harpa, that ever was, with all his fingers fever, touch I o string, or I o warble harpa. Were his nails pointed never so sharpa, it should make an every week to dull, to hear his glee, and of his stroke is full. Ne lompre eke no discordant thing ye fera, as thus, to use in termes of physique, in love's termes, hold of the mater, the form alway, and do that it be leak, for if a painter would paint a peak with ass's feet, and head it as an ape, it cordeth knocked, so ne'er it but a yape. This counsel leaked well to Troilus, but as a dreadful lover he said of this, Alas, me dear brother Pandarus, I am ashamed for to read ye wees, lest of mine innocence I said amiss, or that she knolled it for despite receive, then were I deed, there meeked it nothing waver. To that Pandarus answered, If thee lest, do what I say, and let me therewith goon, for by that Lord that formed east and west, ye hope of it to bring answer anon, reeked of her hand, and if that thou nilt known, that be, and sorry mote he bane his leve, against thy lust that helpeth thee to thrave. Quoth Troilus, de pardo, ia santa, sin that thee least I will arise and rita, and pleaseful God pray each, with good intent, the Vierge and the lettre I shall indeed. So spade it, and thou, Minerva, the wita, if thou me wit me lettre to devise, and set him down, and root reeked in this wise. First he gan her his reeked laddie carla, his heart is lief, his lust, his sorrow is lech, his bliss, and eke these other termes alla, that in which cast these lovers alla secha. And in full humble wise, as in his specha, he gan him recommand unto her grace, to tell all how it axeth mucho space. And after this, for lowly he her prayed, to be knocked ruth, though he of his folly so hardy was to her to rita, and said that love it mada, or else most he dee, and pit house league and mercy for to cree. And after that he said, and lay for loud, himself was little worth, and less he cowed. And that she should han his cunning excused, that little was, and eke he dread her so, and his unworthiness he I accused. And after that, then gan he tell his woe, but that was endless, withouten hoe, and saide, he wold in troth all we him holda, and rade it over, and gan the lettre folda. And with his salted terrors gan he bathe the ruby in his signet, and it sette upon the wax, to liver leech and wreathe. Therewith 1,000 temes ere he lette, he kissed though the lettre that he shete, and said, lettre a blissful destiny they shapen is, my laddie shall thee see. This Pandara took the lettre, and that by team a morwa, and to his nace's palace sterte, and fast he swore that it was passed prima, and gan to yape, and said, I wis min heart, so fresh it is, although it sore smerte, I may not sleep never a mayes morwa, I have a yorly woe, a lusty sorwa. Criseyde, one that she her uncle hearde, with dreadful hearte, and desirous to hear the cause of his coming, thus answered, Now by your faith, min uncle, quod she, dear, what manner windis guideth thou now here? Tell us your yorly woe and your penance, how fareforth be thou put in love's dance. By God, quoth he, I hope alway be hinde, and she to lach, it thocht her hearte breste. Quoth Pandarus, look alway that ye fiend gam in min hood, but hearkeneth if your laste. There is rick now come into town a gueste, a Greek espy, and telleth new a thing is, for which ye come to tell yow tidinges. Into the garden go we, and we shall hear all privily of this a long sermon. With that they went in arm ye faire, into the garden from the chamber down. And when that he so fair was that the sound of that he spake, no man hear meekte, he said her thus, and out the lettre pleeked. Lo, he that is all wholly yours free, him recommendeth lowly to your grace, and sent to you this lettre here by me, aviseth yow on it, when ye han space, and of some goodly answer yow purchase, or help me God, so plainly for to sayne, he may not longer liven for his pain. Full dreadfully though gone she stonde still, and took it knocked, but all her humble cheer gan for to change, and saide, Skrit ne billa, for love of God, that toucheth switch mater, ne bring me none, and also, uncle dear, to mine estate have more reward, I pray, than to his lust, what shall thee more say? And looketh now if this be reasonable, and letteth knocked for favour nay for slouth, to sayne a sooth, now were it convenable to mean a start by God, and by your troth, to taken it, or to han of him routh, in harming of myself or in reprave, bear it again for him that ye unlave. This Pandarus gan on her for to stare, and said, Now is this the greatest wonder that ever I say, Let be this nasa fara, to death moti smeten be with thunder, if, for the city which that standeth yonder, wold a letra unto jou bring or taka to harm of jou, what list jou thus it maka? But thus ye faren well neige all in summa, that he that most desireth jou to serve, of him ye rate least, where he become, and whether that he leave or else serve. But for all that ever he may deserve, refuse it not, quod he, and hent her fast, and in her bosom the letter down he thrust. And said a Hera, now cast it away anoon, that folk may seen and garen honest way, quod she, ye canna be till they be goon, and gan to Smela, and say to him, Eam, ye pray, switch answere as jou least yourself purvey, for truly ye nil no letra rita. No, then will ye, quod he, so ye indeed. Therewith she laughed, and said, Go we Dina, and he gan at himself to yape fast, and said, Nasa, ye have so great a pain for love, that every other day ye fasta, and gan his best to yape as forth to costa, and mad her so to laugh at his folly, that she forlocked her wenda for to die. And when that she was comen into halla, now eam, quod she, we will go Dina noon, and gan some of her woman to her calla, and straked into her chamber gan she goon, but of her businessa this was oon among his other thinges, out of dread, for privily this letra for to read. Avised word by word in every lina, and found no lock, she thought he cowed good, and up it put, and went her into Dina. But Pandarus, that in a study stood, ere he was war, she took him by the hood, and said, Ye were cocked ere that ye wiste. Ye vouchsafe, quod he, do what you least. Though wishen they, and set him down and ate, and after noon full slayly Pandarus gan draw him to the window next the straight, and said, Nace, who hath arrayed us the yonder house, that stand afore yen us? Which house, quod she, and gan for to behold, and knew it well, and whose it was him told. And filling forth in speech of thinges smalla, and Satan in the window both the tway, when Pandarus saw team unto his tala, and saw well that her folk were all away. Now nace mean tell on, quod he say, How leaketh jou the letter that ye wote? Can he thereon? For by my troth ye note. Therewith all rosy hued thou weck she, and gan to hum, and said, So I trow. Acquit him well, for God is love, quod he. Meself to maid's wool the letter sow, and held his hondas up, and sat on knowe. Now good and nace, be it never so lita, yef me the laver, it to sow and plita. Yea, for he can so rita, quod she though, and eke ye not what he should to him say. Nay, nace, quod Pandarus, say not so, yet at the least thanketh him, ye pray, of his good will, and doth him not today. Now for the love of me, my nace dear, refuseth not at this time me prayer. Depardieu, quod she, God lave all be well. God help me so, this is the first letter that ever ye wrote, yea, all or any del. And into a closet, for to avise her better, she went alone, and gan her heart unfetter, out of disdainless prison but a lita, and set her down, and gan a letter rita. Of which to tell in short is mean and tanta, the fact as fair as he can understanda. She thanked him of all that he well meant towards her, but holding him in hand she no the knocked, ne mock herself in bond in love, but as his suster, him to please, she will fain to doon his heart and ease. She shet it, and to Pandarus it gan goon, there as he sat and looked into the strata, and down she set her by him on a stone of jasper, upon a cushion goldy betta, and said, As Weasley help me God the Greata, he never did a thing with more pain than Rita this, to which ye may constrain. And took it him. He thanked her and said, God woot, of thingful oft luth begone, cometh ende good, and nesa mean Criseyde, that ye to him of hard now been ye wonne, ochte he be glad, by God and yonder sonne, for we men saith, impressions leakte, full leakly been I ready to the fleekte. But ye han played tyrant neg to longe, and hard was it your harte for to grave. Now stent, that ye no longer on it honge, al wold ye the forme of danger save, but hasteth jou to doen him joy have. For trusteth well to long ye doen hardnesse, causeth they spiteful often for distresse. And reeked as they declaimed this matter, lo, Troilus, reeked at the straightest ende, come reading with his 10th some ye fair, all softly, and thitherward gan bende, there as they saite, as was his way to wend to Palace ward. And Pandarus him espied, and saide, Nace, ye say who cometh here, rede? O flee not in, he seeth us, I suppose, lest he may think that ye him eschew. Nay, nay, quoth she, and waxes red as rose. With that he gan her humbly to salue, with dreadful chere, and oft his shoes mew, and up his look debonairly he cast, and becked on Pandarus, and forth he passed. God woot if he sat on his horse areeked, or goodly was besane, that ilke day, God woot where he was leek a manly kneeked, what should he drecke, or tell of his array. Criseyde, which that all these things say, to tell in short, her leaked all ye faire, his person, his array, his look, his chere, his goodly manner, and his gentilesse, so well that never, sith that she was born, ne hadde she switch routh of his distresse. And howso she hath hard been herbeforn, to God hope ye she hath now cocked a thorn. She shall not pull it out this next a weeke, God send most which thornes on to pique. Pandarus, which that stood her faste be, felt eeren hoot, and he began to smeet and said, Nace, I pray you heartily, tell me that he shall axen jou a lite, a woman that were of his death to weete, withouten his guilt, but for her lacked ruth. Were it well done, quoth she? Nay, by my troth. God help me so, quoth he, ye say me sooth, ye felon well yourself that aye not lie. Lo, yond he reet, quoth she, yea so he doth. Well, quoth Pandarus, as he have told jou three, that be your niece sham and your folly, and spake with him in easing of his harte, let nicety not do jou both a smarte. But thereon was to heaven and to dawn, considered all thing it may not be, and we for shame, and it were eke too soon to granten him so great a liberty, for plainly her intent, as saide she, was for to love him unwist, if she meekte, and guerdon him with no thing but with seekte. But Pandarus thoughte, it shall not be so, if that he may this niece opinion shall not be holden full years two. What should he make of this a long sermon? He most assent on that conclusion. As for the team and one that it was ave, and all was well, he rose and took his leave. And on his way full fast homeward he spade, and reeked for joy he felt his heart to dance. And Troilus he found alone abed, that lay as doth these lovers in a trance, betwixt hope and dark desesperance. But Pandarus, reeked at his incoming, he song, as who saith, Lo, somewhat ye bring. And saide, Who is in his bed so soon ye buried thus? It am ye, friend, quoth he. Who, Troilus? Nay, help me so the moan, quoth Pandarus. Thou shalt the reason see it charme that was sent reeked now to thee, the which can hail in thee of thine excess, if thou do forth with all thy busyness. Yea, through the meeked of God, quoth Troilus. And Pandarus gone him the letter take, and said, Pardie, God hath holpen us, have here a leaked, and look on all this blake. But oft agone the heart glad and quack of Troilus, will that he gone it rede, so as the wordes gave him hope or dreade. But finally he took all for the beste, that she him wrote for somewhat he beheld, on which him thought he maked his heart reste, or covered she the wordes undershelled, thus to the more worthy part he held, that what for hope and Pandarus beheste, his greate woe forgade he at the laste. But as we may all day ourselven say, through more wood or coal, the more fear, reeked so increase hope, or what it be, therewith full oft increaseth eke desire, or as an ook cometh or a little spear, so through his lettre, which that she him sente, increasen gan desire, of which he brente. Wherefore he say alway that day and nicht this Troilus gan to desirein more than he did erst, through hope and did his meekt, to pressen on as by Pandarus lore, and reaten to her of his sorrow sore fro day to day, he let it not refraid, that by Pandara he root somewhat or said. And did also his other observances, that to a lover longeth in this cause. And after that these dees turned on chances, so was he other glad or said, alas, and held after his guestes eye his pass, and after switch answeres as he hadde, so were his days sorry other gladde. But to Pandara alway was his recourse, and piteously gan I tell him to plain, and him besought of rede and some succours. And Pandarus, that say his woe of pain, wax well nag deed for routh, sooth to sain, and busily with all his heart cast some of his woe to slain, and that as fast, and said, Lord and friend and brother dear, God woot that thy disease doth me woe, but wilt thou stint in all this woeful cheer, and by my troth, or it be days twoe, and God to forn, yet shall he shap it so, that thou shalt come into a certain place, there as thou mayest thyself her prey of grass. And certainly not if thou it wost, but thou that being expert in love it say, it is one of the things that furthereth most a man to have a lacer for to pray, and seeker place his woe for to bewray, for in good heart it mote some wroth impresse, to hear and see the guiltless in distresse. Parentur thinkest thou, though it be so, that keen the world doon her to begin, to han a man wroth upon my woe? Saith danger, nay, thou shalt me never win, so ruleth her heart as ghost within, that though she bend, yet she stand on road, what in effect is this unto my boat. Think here agains, one that the sturdy oak, on which men hacketh oft, for the nonnes received hath the happy falling stroke. The great swag doth it come all at once, as doon these rockes or these milne stones. For swifter course cometh thing that is of weekte, when it descendeth, than don thing is leakte. And reed that boweth down for every blast, for leakly cess a wind, it will arise. But so not an ook one it is cast, it needeth me not be longe to forbize. Men shall rejoicen of a great emprise, achieved well, and stand with oaten doubt, all hand men being the lenger thereabout. But Troilus, yet tell me, if thee list, a thing now which that he shall axen thee, which is thy brother that thou lovest best, as in thy very heart is privity. He wis me brother Deiphebus, quod he. Now, quod Pandarus, ere houres 12, he shall thee ease, on wist of it himself. Now let me alone and worken as he may, quod he. And to Deiphebus went he though, which had his lord and great a friend been I, save Troilus, no man he loved so. To tell it in short, withouten wordes mo, quod Pandarus, ye pray you that ye be friend to a cause which that toucheth me. Yes, pardie, quod Deiphebus, well thou wost, in all that every may, and God to fore, all ne'er it but for man ye love most, me brother Troilus. But say wherefore it is, for sith that day that he was bore, in nas ne never mo to be ne thinke, Yein's a thing that meek to thee forthinke. Pandara gan him thanke, and to him said, Lo sira, ye have a laddie in this town that is my niece, and call it is Criseyde, which some men wolden doen oppression, and wrongfully have her possession. Wherefore ye of your lordship shall beseech, to be our friend without more speech. Deiphebus him answered, O is not this that thou spakest of to me thus strongly, Criseyde, my friend? He said, Yes. Then needeth, quod Deiphebus heartily, ne more to spake, for trusteth well that ye will be her champion with spore and yerde. Ye rocked not though all her foes it herde. But tell me how, thou that woost all this matter, how we might best availen. Now let's see, quod Pandarus, if ye, my lord so dear, wolden as now done his honour to me, to prayen here to Morwa, lo, that she come unto yow her plaints to devise, her adversaries wold of it agrees. And if ye more durste pray as now, and chargen yow to have so great travail, to hand some of your brethren here with yow, that meeked into her cause bet availa, then woot ye well she meekte never faila, for to be holpen, what at your instance, what with her other friendes governance. Deiphebus, which that comen was of kind, to all honour and bounty to consente, answered, It shall be done, and ye can finde yet greater help to this in mine intente. What wilt thou sayne, if ye for Ellen sent to spake of this? Ye trow it be the best, for she may laden perish as her least. Of Hector, which that is my lord, my brother, it needeth not to pray him friend to be, for ye have heard him, O team and eke other, spake of Criseyde, switch honour, that he may say no bet, switch hap to him hath she, it needeth not his help as for to crave, he shall be switch, richt as we will him have. Speak thou thyself also to Troilus on me behalf, and pray him with us Dina. Sirrah, all this shall be done, quod Pandarus, and took his leave, and never again to Fina, but to his niece's house as straight as lean. He come, and found her for the mate of Risa, and set him down and spak richt in this wise. He said, O very God, so have ye ronna, lo, niece mine, see ye not how we sweate? Ye noot whether ye the more thank me conna, be ye not war, how that false Polifete is now about eft sones for to plate, and bring on yow advocacies new? Ye know, quod she, and changed all her hue. What is he more about, me to dreche, and doon me wrong? What shall he do, alas? Yet of himself no thing ne wold he reche, ne'er it for Antenor and Aeneas, that been his friendes in switch manner cause, but for the love of God, mine uncle dere, no force of that, let him have all ye fare. Withouten that he have ye knock for us, nay, quod Pandare, it shall no thing be so, for ye have been richt now at Deiphebus, and Hector, and mine other lord is mo, and shortly mocked each of him his foe, that by my thrift he shall it never win, for aught he can, when that so he begin. And as they cast in what was best to doen, Deiphebus of his own courtesy come here to pray in his proper person, to hold him on the morrow company at dinner, which she nold not deny, but goodly gone to his prayer obey. He thanked her, and went up on his way. One of this was done, this Pandara up anon, to tell in short, and forth can for to wend to Troilus, as still as any stone. And all this thing he told to him word and end, and how that he Deiphebus gone to blend, and say to him, Now is team, if that thou conna, to bear thee well to Morwa, and all is one. Now spake, now pray, now piteously complain, let not for niece a shame or dread or slouth. Some team a man mote tell his own pain, believe it, and she shall hand on thee routh. Thou shalt be saved by thy faith in troth. But well wot I, thou art now in a dread, and what it is, ye lay, ye canna read. Thou thinkest now, how should thee done all this, for be my Chaires most in focus be, that for her love is that he fare amiss, yet had I lever, and wist for sorrow dee. Now think not so, for thou dost greet folly, for ye reek now have found an o manner of slaikte, for to cover in all thy Chaire. Thou shalt goon over neekt, and that is blieve, unto Deiphebus house, as thee to play, thy melody away the bet to drive, for we thou same seek, soth for to say. Soon after that down in thee bed thee lay, and say, thou mayst nae longer up endure, and lie reek there, and bide thee aventure. Say that the favourers want thee for to taka, the same a time, and last until a morwa, and let see now how well thou canst it make. For pardie, sick is he that is in sorrow. Go now, farewell, and Venus here to borrow, ye hope, and thou this purpose hold firma. Thy grace she shall fully there confirm. Quod Troilus, I wis thou natalies concealest me, that sicklich I may feign, for I am sick in earnest, doubteless, so that well nae I starve for the pain. Quod Pandarus, thou shalt the better plain, and hast the less need to counterfeit, for him main daemon hoot, that men saint sweet. Lo, hold thee at the triste clues, and I shall well the deer unto thy bower drive. Therewith he took his lave all softly, and Troilus to palace went leave. So glad ne was he never in all his leave, and to Pandarus reed gan all assenta, and to Deiphebus house at neekt he went. What needeth yow to tellen all the Chaire that Deiphebus unto his brother made, or his accessa, or his sicklich manner, how men gan him with clothes for to lade, when he was laid, and how men wold him glada, but all for naught he held forth aye the wise, that ye han heard Pandarus ere this devise. But certain is, ere Troilus him laid, Deiphebus had him prayed, overneekt, to be a friend and helping to Criseyde. God woot that he it granted anon reekte, to be her full friend with all his meekt, but switch a nede was to pray him then, as for to be a woed man for to ren. The morwen come, and nean gan the team of meal a teed, that the fair Queen Elaine shope her to been, an hour after the prima, with Deiphebus, to whom she knolled the fain, but as his suster, homely, sooth to sain, she come to dinner in her plain and taunt, but God and Pandarus wist all what this mante. Come eke Criseyde, all innocent of this, Antigone her sister, Tarbe also, but flay we now prolixity best is, for love of God, and let us fast to go, wreak to the effect without a talus mo, why all this folk assembled in this place, and let us of her saluings pass. Great honour did him Deiphebus certain, and fade him well with all that meekte leeke, but evermore, alas, was his refrain, my good brother Troilus, the seeke leeth yet. And therewith all he gan to seeke, and after that he painted him to glada him as he meekte, and Chaire good he made. Complained eke Elaine of his sicknesse, so faithfully that pity was to her, and every week gan waxen for excesse, a leche known, and said, in this manner men curen folk, this charm ye will yow lere, but there sat one, all this here knock to teche, that thought best could yet been his leche. After complaint him gone in they to praise, as folk done yet, when some week hath begun to praise a man, and up with praise him raise, 1,000-fold yet higher than the sun. He is, he can, that few a lord is can, and Pandarus of that the world affirm, he not forgat, here praising to confirm. Heard all this thing Criseyde well ye knocked, and every word gan for to notify, for which with sober cheer her heart to lock, for who is that nae wold her glorify, to mouwens which knight don liever die. But all passe lest ye too longe dwell, for foro fin is all that every tell. The time come for dinner for Teresa, and as him ocht a reason every John, and goon a wheel of this and that devisa. But Pandarus brak all the speech unknown, and said to Deiphebus, Will ye gon, if your will obey, as a yow prayed, to speak here of the natives of Criseyde? Elaine, which that by the hand her held, took first the tala, and said, Go we believe, and goodly on Criseyde she beheld, and said, Lovers let him never thrive, that doth yow harm, and bringe him soon of leave. And yeva me sorrow, but he shall it rue, if that he may, and all folk be true. Tell thou thy niece's cause, quoth Deiphebus to Pandarus, for thou canst best it tella. My lordes and my ladies, it stamp thus, what should thee linger, quoth he, do yow dwella. He wrong him out a process like a bella, upon her foe that heeked prolifite, so heinous, that men meeked on it spate. Answered of this each worse of him than other, and prolifite they gon and thus to wherein, and honged be switch on, where he may brother, and so he shall, for it ne may not varian. What should he linger in this tall terrian? Plainly all at once they here heekten, to be her help in all that ever they meekten. Spake then Ellen and said, Pandarus, would ocht my lord my brother this matter I mean Ector, or would it Troilus? He said, Yea, but will ye now me hear, me thinketh this, sith Troilus is here, it were good if that ye wold assent, she told herself him all this ere she went. For he will have the more her grief at heart by cause, lo, that she a lady is, and by your lave he will but reeked and starte, and do yow weete, and that anon he wis, if that he slepe, or will ocht hear of this. And in he lape and said him in his era, God have thy soul, ye brocht have ye they beare. To smilen of this gando Troilus, and Pandarus, without reckoning, outwent anon to Ellen and Deiphebus, and said him, So there be no tarrying, ne more press, he will well that ye bring Criseyde, my lady, that is here, and as he may enduren, he will hear. But well ye wot the chamber is but liete, and fewer folk may lightly make it warm. Now looketh ye, for ye will have no weete, to bring in priests that meeked doen him harm, or him disseason, for my betre arm. Will it be bet she bide till eftsones? Now looketh ye that knowen what to doen is. Ye say for me best is as ye can know, that no weeked in ne went but ye tway, but it were ye, for ye can in a throw rehearse her case on leak that she can say, and after this she may him once pray to bane good Lord, in short, and take her leave, this may not muchel of his ays him rave. And eke for she is strange, he will forbear his ays, which that him thar knocked for yow. Eke other thing that toucheth not to hear, he will me tella. He would it well reek now, that secret is, and for the town is prow, and they that nothing knew of his intanta, without a more to Troilus in they went. Elaine in all her goodly softe wise, gan him salua, and womanly to play, and saide, Ye wis ye most always arise, now fair brother, baith all whole I pray, and gan her arm reeked over his shoulder lay, and him with all her wit to recomfort, as she best could, she gan him to disport. So after this quod she, way yow be sake, my dear brother Deiphebus and I, for love of God, and so doth Pandarus eke, to being good lord and friend, reeked heartily, unto Criseyde, which that certainly receiveth wrong, as would well hear Pandarus, that can her case well bet than I declare. This Pandarus gone knew his tongue a feel, and all her case rehearse, and that anon, when it was said soon after in a wheel, quoth Troilus, as soon as ye may goon, ye war-wreaked fain with all mean meek to be known, have God me troth, for cause to sustain God thrift of ye, quod Helen the Queen. Quod Pandarus, and it your will obey, that she may take her leave ere that she go. O else God forbade, though quod he, if that she vouchsafe for to do so. And with that word quod Troilus, yea two, Deiphebus, and my suster leave and dare, to yow have I to speak of o mater. To be avised by your reed the better, and fond as hap was at his bed as heed, the copy of a treatise and a letter, that Hector had him sent to Axon read. If switch a man was worthy to be deed, would he knock too, but in a grisly wheeze, he prayed him anon on it a visa. Deiphebus gan this letter to unfold, in earnest greet, so did Elaine the Queen, and roaming outward fast it gan behold, downward the stair, into a herbe green, this ilke thing they redden him between, and largely the mountains of an hour, they gone on it to raiden and to pour. Now let him raid and turn we anon to Pandarus, that gan full fast prie that all was well, and out he gan to goon into the great chambre, and that in he and saide, God salve all this company, come nace a mean, my lady Queen Elaine, abideth yow, and eke my lordes tway. Rees, take with yow your nace Antigone, or whom yow least, or no force heartily, the less a priest, the bet come forth with me, and looka that yow thonka humbly, him all a three, and when ye may goodly your team ye see, talketh of him your leva, lest we too longa his restes him bereva. All innocent of Pandarus and tant, quodo Criseyde, go we uncladera, and arm in arm inward with him she went, avised well her wordes and her chera, and Pandarus in earnestful manner saide, all folk for God's love ye pray, stinteth richt here, and softly yow play. Aviseth yow what folk been here within, and in what pleat one is, God him amend, and inward thus full softly begin, nace, ye conjure and hagly yow defend, on his half which that Saul us all send, and in the virtue of Carones twain, slee not this man that hath for yow this pain. Fie on the devil, think which one he is, and in what pleat he lieth, come of anon, think all switch tarried teed, but lost it nis, that will ye both sain when ye been un. Second leech, there yet divineth none, upon yow two, come of now if ye conna, will folk is blent lo, all the team is wonna. In teetering and pursuit and delays, the folk devine at wagging of a stree, and though ye wold on after merry days, then dar ye knocked and we, for she, and she spake switch a word, thus looked he, and he lest teamy lost, he dare not with yow dela, come of therefore and bringeth him to Hela. But now to yow ye lovers that been here, was Troilus knocked in a cankadort, that lay, and meeked whispering of him here, and thoughtde, O Lord, reek now renneth my sort fully to die, or Hannah noon comfort, and was the first team he should here pray of love. O mighty God, what shall he say? Explicit secundus liber. End of Book 2.